people will be filtering in, but I think we can start. Okay. Welcome to um, welcome to the first and hopefully not last SpyParty Competitive League player interview. Today I will be interviewing one of the newest entrants into the Diamond League, WarningTrack.
Thanks for having me.
And okay, thank you. Sorry, I had a hiccup with how I was doing things.
That's okay.
If you watch this VOD, it'll be really funny.
I saw it.
Welcome. Welcome, WarningTrack. How are you doing?
I'm doing okay. Thanks for having me.
That's a really nice tie you have on.
Oh, do you think so? Yeah?
Yeah.
I think it's the first time I've ever worn it. Thanks for giving me a reason to.
Yeah, that's good. Alright, so I think... oh no, I don't have my notes. I gave you 3 questions before this interview, just so you can see what we are going to be talking about.
Sure, yeah.
And the first one, off the top of my head, is who are you? And who are you in relation to SpyParty?
Oof. Well, I'm glad you had that second part. That was kind of existential for a second there. Who are you? My name's Chris Boyer. Away from SpyParty, I'm a television producer and web developer. In regards to SpyParty, I'm someone who's been playing the game for a little over 5 years. I joined back in the closed beta days. I remember reading about the game and being incredibly intrigued by the premise, realizing there was a waiting list to get in that was semi-random, so I signed up immediately, and I think I got in a month or 2 later, and I was incredibly excited. So I actually log all the things I buy, and in my Quicken entry for the $15, the memo field just says yes in all caps. I went back and checked. I was so excited even before I played a game, and it was so terrifying. So I've been playing a long time, and I run the world's only SpyParty fan site, appropriately named SpyPartyFans.com. That's who I am.
That's who you are?
Yeah.
And how long have you been playing this game of SpyParty?
Yeah, I mean, pretty much the whole 5 years. There really haven't been any significant gaps, maybe a month here or there. But every time I stop playing for a little while, I sort of feel like I should be playing. You know, I feel like a sense of obligation. It's almost like if you haven't cleaned your house in a while, you feel like you just should, even if nobody's coming over. That's kind of how I feel about SpyParty. I feel like I should keep up with it and keep playing, so I probably haven't gone more than a month or 2 at any point for the whole 5 years.
Yeah, I understand that. You can get a lot of touch and go with especially old players.
Yeah. I mean, you see people, they're gone for 4 or 5 months sometimes, and they come back like nothing happened, and that's great. But in my case, I felt too obligated to keep playing regularly.
And then what was my second question I gave you?
Well, you were going to ask me, you said something, you were going to ask me about how my experience has been in the SCL so far, I think?
How has your experience been in the SCL?
Thank you for asking, Wodar, for that.
Yes. I think this is your second season in SCL.
Third, yeah. I joined in season 2. I elected to do placement matches, and until recently, I think I was the only person crazy/stupid enough to do that. One of the reasons it was crazy/stupid is because I had to play you in one of the lower leagues. You were under promoted, and probably still are, relative to your skill level. And I thought, wow, it'd be really easy to just lose a quick set to Wodar and be stuck, wherever. But I went for it anyway. Ended up in gold, won gold in season 2, platinum in season 3, and there is nowhere left to go. I am terrified, shivering, afraid in Diamond now. And my experience has been that it is stressful, even more stressful than I thought it was going to be. I thought it would be stressful because I'd played in a couple tournaments here and there, and I just played the game ever, for that matter. And adding even a little bit in the way of stakes to it, I knew would have made it even more stressful. But even expecting it to be that bad, it's still worse than I thought. I'm starting to get comfortable now a little bit, but boy, it's tough. It's really tough.
It is, definitely. SpyParty already is a stressful game. And once you just put even this a tiny grain of difficulty more onto it, it can get to you.
I mean, just knowing even a handful of people are watching, just knowing that it's being tracked formally, that there are standings, that there are winners, that there are losers. I mean, I can't imagine what it must be like, for people with, big esports, with tens of thousands of dollars on the line or in these giant arenas. If SpyParty ever gets to that point, we're going to need EMTs on hand, I think.
God.
Yeah, it's pretty rough. Yeah, but That's also sort of what I love about it, though. And it does get better over time. And I also can't imagine what it would be like if the players were jerks, if people were overly competitive about it or trash talked you or anything. That basically never happens. So even with the nicest community in the world and very, very moderate symbolic stakes, it's still pretty stressful. So maybe it's for the best. Maybe we need to ease in, to a bigger esports kind of thing.
Yeah. I do have to say, though, you're kind of living the dream of the SCL. Like, most of the people in Diamond right now were placed into Diamond from the first season. Like, you actually, you climbed. You climbed from Gold to Plat to Diamond.
That's scarier, yeah, because I don't know what I'm getting into. They at least have settled in, right? I'm very happy with it, obviously.
You're almost like the platonic ideal of what we want an SCL player to be.
Oh, you mean the whole idea of having tiers in the first place is to get people to try to climb, over time.
Like, this is like a pseudo ladder, right?
Yeah, it's a little bit like that. It's like a ladder with a lot of little rungs in between the big rungs, basically. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's a good way to look at it too, because I think there's a really good chance that when I started, I wasn't as good, and I literally had to grind and play hard and do a lot of research and put a lot of effort into it to get to the point where I could even theoretically be in Diamond and hopefully not get totally whooped. Although that remains to be seen. But yeah, I mean, some of these guys have been up here for a while. They earned their placement real early on, and they've just stayed. The fact that they've stayed means that they're in the right place, obviously, and that they deserve it for sure. But it's been fun. It's been fun to advance each year, and like I said, there's nowhere left to go, though. So the ride might have to end right about now.
Well, actually, this bridges perfectly into my third question of how are your opponents in Diamond? How have you matched up against them?
Well, I've only played one match so far, and I won 7-4. Spoilers against Magician, but boy, did he bring it though! It was a tough set, and if that's what I have to look forward to all year, it's going to be pretty brutal. I'm, as we speak, circulating a petition to abolish Diamond because it is awful and no one should be allowed to play it. I think anyone who gets promoted from Platinum should be prohibited from playing the game further because it's not fair to anyone who has to play them. It is horrifying. I hate it. I also love it. It's a very complicated relationship.
Do you think it's too hard? Like, there's some really, really good players in Diamond, and when you play against them competitively, it really drains you.
Yeah, it's very draining, and there's really nothing to be done about that part. So the question sounds almost facetious, but I'm going to take it seriously because I think it is a real question. Is it too hard? I think there's already been talk about expanding the divisions for Season 5 because we have so many new entrants and so many people, frankly, who are still under-promoted. There's so many people in Silver, Gold, and Plat who could hold their own in Diamond, potentially.
There are a bunch of people in Challenger that probably should have been up there if they were given the chance.
I think the top 3 or 4 finishers in Challenger this season are going to be Silver level or higher easily, and we're going to have to look at, making an exception in the rules for all the new entrants post-Steam and giving people the opportunity, maybe a secondary tournament or something. Kaylee will decide, I'm sure, giving people a chance to jump more than one division. I think that's absolutely true. So I know there's talk about maybe doubling the divisions, or maybe nearly doubling them. If you made it 11 people, everyone would play each other once, for example. 10 weeks. That sounds pretty good. It complicates my role a little bit, but it helps me chill out because it means that even if I lose this year, I might stay in Diamond anyway because the division doubles in size. I do think that would be interesting. I think we lose a little something if you don't get to play someone more than once, but it's nice and even, and I think it would be a little less insane, because obviously all the players would still be very good, but it wouldn't be quite as brutal as it is now. Right now it's a murderer's row. This would turn it into a manslaughterer's row, which is slightly better.
I want to get a bit more serious right now. From your perspective of, if chat doesn't know, WarningTrack is a commentator also for SCL, and he's been commentating almost all the seasons. Did you
pretty much.
The first one? But do you think that the style of SCL right now is sustainable, especially with the influx of 50 people in Challenger or something insane like that?
You mean the basic promotion and relegation structure?
Yeah.
Probably not. And I think that's why we're talking about changing it already. I think people need to be able to advance quicker. if they are good enough. And I think some of them are good enough. It hasn't been a big problem before because one of the reasons we had the SCL was just to sort of, keep the game going, give kind of create a competitive scene in the background at least, so that people had a reason to come back, so that people weren't gone for months and months, like I talked about earlier. So I do think there going to need to be mechanisms next season and beyond for people to jump more than one tier at a time. Certainly, yeah.
What do you think you're going to place this season?
I'm too cagey to answer that completely, honestly. 7th out of 6. I'll say, it's amazing, really. I will say that I think it's totally reasonable when people predict me to finish near the bottom. I totally get it. It's brutal. Somebody's got to go there, and I haven't been up at this level before, so I totally get it. I don't feel bad when someone says he'll finish 5th or 6th or whatever. That's all I want to say for sure, especially having only played one match. I want to see how the next few matches go. But I am hopeful that I won't be completely overmatched, at least. I'll say that.
Yeah. At least with your first match, you did well, right?
Yeah, I mean, that helps. That gives you a little bit of margin. See, when you're in Diamond, a win doesn't feel the same. When I won a match in Gold or Platinum, I think ahead to what that might mean for the end of the season and what my chances were of finishing. When I won this one, my first thought was, okay, so you can definitely lose the next 2 and you won't be back too far. That's like the first thing I thought is, I maybe brought myself a little breathing room. I'm not kidding. Like, it's the first thing I thought.
Yeah.
Like, now I can lose for 2 straight weeks and maybe not be completely out of it still. That's what we're dealing with up here. So, I'm not being totally cagey, though. I really don't know. I've had a hard time figuring out what my skill level is at this game for many years now because I don't enter, every competition. And when I do enter them, I take them very seriously. Yeah. I'm the kind of person who, if I'm going to do something at all, I'm going to do it my best. I'm going to go all out on it. If I can't go all out on it, I don't do it. And there are downsides to that for sure. And one of the downsides is that you really don't know how good you are at some of these things because you don't always enter. And when you do, you're giving it your all. And, what would it be like if I played a little more casually? I don't know. All I know is it makes me mad when I see someone like Drawn Onward barely trying and still holding his own in Platinum. My God. He's like, I'll just show up and play. And he still, wins plenty.
He's a good player.
He great player. He really is.
Even if he hides it well.
Yeah, he does. with his nonchalance. Yeah. But I can't play that way. So, if I ever can't dedicate a ton of time, thought, and effort to competitive SpyParty, I'll stop playing. If I maybe take a season off or whatever it is, but it's all or nothing. It's got to be. I really don't have any other way to play this, and this game is like that too. You really do have to give it your all if you want to play at a high level. There's really no way to play it halfway or go off muscle memory or anything like that at this level. So. I honestly don't know what's going to happen, but I know that it's going to be draining because it's the only way I know how to play it.
Do you think you enjoyed yourself more when you were in Gold or Platinum than you are now in Diamond?
Well, that's a really good question because I have thought both yes and no to that in the past when I've asked myself similar questions. Obviously, it's a little less terrifying, and I do mean only a little less because the competition's brutal everywhere from the mid-leagues and up. But whatever you lose in difficulty because the competition's a little less fierce is offset by the fact that now you're supposed to win it. Now you are at least one of the contenders. People did prediction streams the first 2 seasons, and I think I was predicted to win Gold and Plat, but it was close both times, and well it should have been because there were a lot of good players there. And that comes with a different kind of pressure, Then it's, instead of just saying, oh, it's so hard and everyone understands if and when you lose, it's, well, wow, I really thought he would do better than that. And those expectations are tough too. I really don't know, whether or not I prefer one rather than the other. I think I like playing underdog a little more. I think it's a little more fun, especially with a stressful game. You're looking for anything to de-stressify, right?
Yeah.
And one of the things you can use to de-stressify is just give people low expectations for you. That's much simpler. So it feels different, but I would say, I definitely prefer being the underdog. So as stressful as it is playing in Diamond, in that sense, I definitely prefer it.
I can tell you from personal experience, when I play in Silver, like even if people expect me to win Silver, because of how I play and what kind of player I am in SpyParty, they still have the... I don't have the super high expectation that someone like Steph has, where like I can still lose games and people would still like, oh yeah, I could see that happening.
Because you have a very idiosyncratic play style. Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly. But like
It's a little unpredictable.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. No, it's so from like match to match, your style can vary a lot, and you're more likely to have good days or bad days. Because when you're kind of walking that behavioral edge knife, it can be kind of precarious.
Yeah, unlike you, like when you were in gold, like I think there was a lot of expectations on you winning it, which I mean you met those expectations, but like
it was close. It was close.
Yes.
But you're right. Yeah, I think that's it would be hard to feel bad losing in platinum because. Platinum's great. Slappy's a great player. I thought all year it was probably going to come down to the two of us, and it did.
Yep.
I would have felt a little bad if I hadn't won gold, but Piers was in there too, and he wasn't quite as scary as he is now, maybe, but he was getting there. I lost my first match to him 5-2 because I had no idea what I was getting into. I didn't really know. Yeah, I came back and tied him the next one, and I remember being frustrated. I felt like I should have won that match, but that was also a less developed Piers, so it was no cakewalk. I'll tell you that much. Yeah, I think I felt like I was supposed to win gold if I didn't screw it up, but that doesn't mean you're not going to screw it up, But I know what you're saying. You're in silver, and I think you're certainly underpromoted. People look at game counts, and they look at people who are prominent in the community, and they sort of just naturally decide this person, therefore, should probably win. And maybe that's true in a kind of plurality sense. Maybe you'll win a plurality of the time, but boy, it's a tough game. And and with your playstyle in particular, yeah, it can vary a lot. So. All I know is I feel like anyone silver and up can definitely beat anyone else on a given day. That's the only thing I feel confident about.
I do have to say that I did breathe a sigh of relief when I beat James 1-2-2-1 in the first week. Like getting off on a win from the first week feels good.
It really does. You need that margin. And James 1-2-2-1 in particular, I don't know if this is what you meant by that, but I played him in gold the first season, and I was very apprehensive because he's old school. I think he predates me, and I remember he had some kind of idiosyncratic skills that I wasn't really sure I understood, so I really didn't know what to expect. And it's really a testament to this game, though, that people who haven't played in so long, just the fact they've been around so long. It kind of gives them this deep understanding and wisdom about the early game that is very scary, actually, and still has the potential to be scary now, even if they're not as up to date on certain things.
So after this question that I'm about to ask, I'm going to open it up to chat to ask you some Q&A questions.
Cool.
Continuing on the serious note, where do you want SpyParty as like a quote-unquote esport to go from here? Because like we've never had real like the biggest prize for SpyParty is a trip to Japan, but like we never set that up. Then the second biggest one is a jacket, which was a really cool jacket. It was a really cool jacket.
Yeah, it was a super cool jacket.
It wasn't the biggest of it's not esports level of prizes.
Yeah, it's still in early access for esports too, and that's the way it should be. I obviously we'd all like to see it get much bigger. I think it's too strange in a good sense to ever be League of Legends or anything. Even if it blows up, I think it'll still be narrower than that. So I don't know if we're ever going to be talking about professional SpyParty players, but maybe a couple of us could get part-time someday. That'd be cool. Obviously, I want it to be as big as possible, but. At this point, I don't think too much about that. I think about the game itself. I try to think the way Checker does, which is he says he wants to make the best game possible. And if it sells, great. And if it doesn't, okay, at least he made the game he wanted to. That's kind of how I feel about the community, too. I feel like we should make a certain kind of community, run certain kinds of events. And if the rest of the world's into it, awesome. And if they're not, I don't care. I love it. I'm having a great time as is with no money on the line or, the occasional little prize here and there. I'd like to see it bigger, but I'm okay if this is it. I really am. It's been incredible. I've made friends that some of these people I think I'll probably know for the rest of my life in some cases. And this is right now becoming the best version of itself very slowly. And I mean that about the casting scene too. I think it's just so grassroots. I mean, I'm a player. You're a player. The graphics you're seeing in the background on this stream are just made by someone who signed up right before Steam. I mean, this is all community run. It's amazing. In the early days with the casts, we didn't have spectation. We didn't even have replays. We literally had to load a Twitch stream that someone else had saved from when they were casting their own games, and we
those were
watched the
days.
Triss stream and cast that. And we do it on a Tuesday night for 6 people, and 2 of them were the people whose games we were casting, and we did it every week. And you know what? There's your answer right there. The fact that we did that, clearly the journey is the reward. Clearly, if we're willing to do all that, it's because we just love doing it. And anything extra, anything esporty, anyone watching beyond that is gravy.
I do love those recast of streams to cast replays. I mean, that was the best part.
How bad did we want to do it that we put up with all that? Because it was miserable, let me tell you. But we still had so much fun doing it.
Mm-hmm.
My God.
So we are now on to the Q&A portion of this interview. And I have the first question up on screen so people can see what we're talking about if you're just tuning in. 00TKA asks, you've been casting SpyParty since the very beginning. How far has it come, and is there anything you'd like to see happening to help expectation, whether from a games perspective or the way information is being presented or whatever? ? And you also can see these questions, right?
Yeah, okay. I can see them. Well, so most of the things we want to do, we're in the process of doing right now. So in the past few seasons, we've had ideas. Wouldn't it be cool if? This is the season almost all of those are happening, or at least we're looking into them. I don't want to spoil any surprises, but let's just say there's been a lot of talk in this week in particular. Now that we've gotten the first couple broadcasts out of the way, about enhancements we can make to the stream, mostly having to do with making it more accessible to new people, and in a couple cases making it a little bit more like actual live sports. I'd rather leave that a mystery. Wodar, you probably know what I'm talking about. There's some cool ideas. We're still going to see. I don't. Let's hope we're talking about the same things. Otherwise, I'm going to spring some stuff on you.
Mm-hmm.
It might be a week or two before we work it all out, but most of the things that we've wanted to do with casting to make the cast better are in fact happening this year or in the process of happening. So not too much more. I mean, one of the things that's incredible about the replay expectation systems is that, we were already casting at the time, so Checker built in a lot of casting modes. I think that streamer CDN, he was casting games when he kind of fell into the SpyParty hole for that first week there. Yeah. He was actually casting games for 7,000 or 8,000 people at once, and he was even like wondering aloud, oh, there's a little log at the bottom of the replay. Oh, it shows you what's going to happen. And he casually mentioned it would be nice if you could hide it. And someone said, Control-Shift-C. And it disappeared. And he just closed his eyes and just started clapping. And he went, they thought of everything, Dev of the Year. And I'm like, there it is. So there are a lot of things that have required tweaking over the years, but the replay expectation system is one of the things that came out birthed, fully formed and done, more or less, like AAA level. So all the things that normally, if you were casting a game like this in beta, that you would really wish the developer would add, were added up front with that. It's really incredible how well that's scaled, how few extra things there are that we even want to do. But other than the things we're planning over the next few weeks, and I would really encourage everyone to keep watching because there's going to be some really cool stuff coming that's going to make it even better. Mm-hmm. It's just practice. It's just getting deeper into the meta, getting more comfortable with each other, just getting used to it because... my dad uses a phrase he calls hours in the cockpit. It's another way of saying, if you want to become a pilot, you're not actually just allowed to study how to fly. You're not allowed to just use simulators. You have to require a certain number of hours in an actual cockpit because there's no substitute for that. Yeah, you can't crash course it, right? And I actually feel like SpyParty's like that too. You can't crash course SpyParty. You can get good pretty quick, but there's a deepness to it that comes with what Checker calls wall clock time. So I think for the casting team, the best thing we can do is get those hours in the cockpit and just get used to it over time because we've been doing this a long time already, and there are indications we might be able to do it for a long time still to come. And I think we're just going to keep getting better and better.
I'm going to take us on a very slight tangent here, but do you remember the days before we had replays and we were only given the logs?
Oh God, yes, I do. And
I almost missed the skills that you had to obtain with having to look through the logs and try to piece in your head what happened.
Yes.
And understand it without actually being able to see a replay.
Right. Yeah. So for people who don't know, right now you see the replay on the side and the log on the left. Imagine if that replay were just gone and it was just a log in the middle. You could see the order things happened. You'd literally look at the log and say, "Oh, I bugged here." Highlight 6 seconds later. I guess that was for the bug. But if you also took a drink or something, then who knows, right? And maybe they'll tell you, maybe they won't.
I had no idea what were the AIs doing at that point at all.
Right, you have
Yeah.
no idea. So you just see that one of them got a highlight. You have no idea why. You can piece some of it together, but not all of it. And sometimes you'd ask your opponent, and even if they wanted to be generous and tell you, which most of them did,
Hmm.
sometimes they go, "Oh, I don't remember. I don't
Yeah.
remember why I
I,
highlight you."
I I had that answer a lot of times to the frustration of people.
Yeah, and you're like, "Well, are they being cagey, or are they generally not genuinely don't remember?" Think about how much harder it is to learn about this game when that's going on. Because I said this to I think it was Dowsy the other day. The why is worth more than the win. The why is the most important thing after every
Yeah.
Spy Party game. Why did it happen? That is the best way to get better. And we only sort of had that for the first couple of years.
Hmm.
So it's what I'm really trying to say is it's not fair. It's not
Did,
fair, damn it.
you're trying to say get off my lawn?
I'm trying to say, get off my lawn, you Steam players who've been playing for a month and have 3,000 games and you're already as good as me.
Oh my
It's not
god,
fair,
yeah,
damn
that's
it.
amazing.
You
Oh
guys don't realize
jeez.
how good you have it. We had to cast uphill in the snow both
Both
ways, you
ways.
know? We
Yes.
really did. Yeah, it was brutal. It was hard to learn. They learn as much in the first 500 games as we used to in the first 2 or 3,000. And I'm not exaggerating. I think that's about the ratio. I think it's like a 5 or 10 to 1 relationship compared to how it used to be. So,
Yeah. Which
but
like
I'm glad they're doing it, but I still resent it just a little bit.
I mean like I wonder if that's impressive on Checker's part or impressive on us as a community's part for having them being able to like, gain all these skills so fast.
I like that. No, that's good. That makes me feel better. We take partial credit for all great new players because we answer so many of their questions, and
Yeah.
they probably wouldn't be that great
And
without us.
we've,
I
we've
like
made a
that.
lot of resources also for new players.
Yeah. So just to get real serious for a second, even today, even yesterday, I've played people who are in my division in Diamond where it's cutthroat, and I've asked them questions about strategy, about opponents, about why they did something. And obviously they could be lying to me, but I don't think they were. I think, and those questions still get answered honestly, you know. And I
Mm-hmm.
realize there's not tens of thousands of dollars on the line, but there's a lot of prestige on the line, and everyone up here really wants to win. But still, the emphasis is on sharing information, on advancing the meta, advancing the understanding of the game, and giving that why that I mentioned earlier. The fact that that's still the case from all these people who are talented, competitive people, they're still willing to do that. They still put the game kind of before their own temporary competitive interests.
Yeah.
It's inspiring. It really is, and I don't use that word lightly.
I do have to say that I think maybe part of it is just being able to tell the opponent how smart you are. Because like like any shot could be a lucky shot, but if you tell the opponent like why you shot them,
Yeah.
make them understand how much better you are during that game than they were.
Well, it's flattering to be asked a question. I say as I'm being interviewed, it's very flattered to be asked questions. It feels nice that someone wants to know what you think about something. And in
Yeah.
this case, if someone wants to know why you shot, you have a nice little position of power. And we've talked about before about one of the reasons the community is so nice is that people need that from each other. It kind of
They
forces
do.
them to talk to each other after the games because they need the why. They need to know.
They need
But
to
you're
know the
also going to need
reasons. Yeah.
they need to know the reasons. All men desire to know, I think Aristotle said. And I think about that almost every time I play Spy Party. He means men in the mankind sense, of course. Everyone desires to know. We're all curious.
Yes.
And you know that you're going to have a question after the next game, so you better give them your answer now, to kind of keep it even. Or as Yogi Berra once said, you better go to people's funerals or they might not come to yours. It's basically... there's a quote. There's a Yogi Berra quote for everything. Yogi Berra. Yogi
Oh.
Berra, the baseball player. Yogi Bear is named after Yogi Berra. His sentence I did not think I would be saying in an SCL interview. So you're going to
I
have a
didn't see
question
that
for them the
episode.
next game, right? So you're going to give them your answer now,
Yeah.
and you're going to expect an answer back from them. And you're right, it does feel good. Why did you shoot me? It feels good to have secret information, and you kind of want to share it and show off a little bit. And that's kind of how being in the betas felt too. It's kind of felt like we've had this secret information about this game, like that nobody else knows about. And
We
in
share
just
it.
like you do with the games, just where you want to tell them why you shot, tell them your little secret. You want to tell people about this game too, even though that means the game and the community are going to grow and change in ways we can't predict or control. It's the same thing. You got a great secret, you want to spill it, and it's been really nice the last month sharing this with the world.
I apologize for getting on sidetrack, but we can continue on.
No, it's great. Any good conversation has all sorts of little side trails.
That's the best part of conversations. But if we get on to the next question, Zio asks another question. Do you enjoy playing SCL more than casting, or vice versa?
Ooh, wow.
Yeah,
Well,
hard-hitting
I just
questions.
yeah, it is. Well, I just talked about how I need a defibrillator after most matches, so I guess it would be kind of weird if I didn't say casting. I do enjoy casting more, actually. Most of the things that are fun about Spy Party are fun in the abstract. It's the concept of the game, it's the high level decision making, which is more fun to think about when you're not actually playing, I find. Like
Mm-hmm.
some of the most fun I've ever had with Spy Party has been in the beta forums, reading other people's mission ideas and thinking about the way they're going to ripple through the gameplay, stuff like that.
Uh-huh.
Like when he mentioned fingerprints, and I thought, oh my god, now drinks do a thing, and now
Yeah.
even if microfilm is turned off, it's still a mission site because maybe the ambo was there. I started thinking about all these ripple effects, and feels like such a revelation. So when people propose, new ideas for like poison the drink or bug the painting or something, I actually get a lot of enjoyment just out of thinking about that. So most of the enjoyment of the game itself comes from all the things around the game, the people in it, thinking about mission ideas, thinking about high level strategy. So I think I enjoy casting more. Yeah. Plus, I get to be a know-it-all, and I get to make fun and critique other people who are doing that incredibly stressful thing and say,
Mm-hmm.
oh, I would have done it this way, whether I would have or not. So just for sheer comfort alone, just for the fact that I get to consume less Pepto-Bismol, definitely casting.
Yeah. Going off of what you just said, I don't know how Ticker did it, but like this community is amazing, and it's the reason why I still play Spy Party.
Yeah, I mean, I've made genuine friends here. I consider you a friend. I consider most of the people in chat right now friends. They're just good people, They're good people, and even if they weren't, this game would make them into good people, man, because it is a
I don't
humbling
know how, but it
experience.
does. Yeah.
It does. It's the humbling. It's humility. You can't be good at this game without humility. I remember I had a really fun realization. This was on the forums in the first year I played. I was like an intermediate. I think I was coming up on like 1,000 games, and I had some kind of game where I hadn't seen anything happen. Just in one of those games where you start to get suspicious, like, oh, what's going on? I haven't. It feels like nobody's gonna finish. And I heard a banana bread or something go off, and I had a moment where I had to decide. I didn't ask myself, are they done? I asked myself, what are the odds they got something by me? What are the odds I missed something? What a weird introspective question, right? Like what is my confidence that I didn't screw up? That's a really interesting question to ask yourself. And I realized, oh my god, I can't get better at this game unless I know how good I already am. If I think I'm good, they wouldn't get anything by me, and I'm wrong, then I'm not gonna fire, and up pops the mission win screen like a punch in the face, like it always feels.
Yeah.
But if I'm right, if I have a good awareness of myself and say, I don't think they would have gotten anything by me. I think I'm good enough to have guarded bug properly, or to have not missed the purloin or whatever. If I say that affects the outcome too. So I realized that at a certain point, like the high intermediate point, the only way to get better is to know how good you are already, to like take an honest self-assessment. And that's the hardest thing, is to honestly assess yourself. Other people usually have a pretty good idea of what you are, who you are. You don't usually. We all have big blind spots. So this game forces you, if you want to get above a certain level, to confront your own blind spots. It's a very introspective thing to ask yourself, and sometimes you have to have the humility to say, I think I could have missed the bug. I'm not great at catching bugs, or I miss swaps or mismemorize statues sometimes. They could have me. And needing that humility to advance means that almost everyone who gets above a certain level has humility, either naturally or acquires it by playing over time. And so I don't think it's just the people inherently. I think the game brings out the best in those people.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a little deeper than I meant for it to go, but I really mean it. I mean, I wouldn't.
I never thought about the connection between like the community and how good the community is and Spy Party itself to that degree.
Yeah, I mean, I think it works on two levels. I think the concept is high concept, so people who are interested in high concept games are maybe, let's say, a little more thoughtful.
Sure.
So there's like a selection bias thing. Anyone who's interested in the game, especially in an early access game, you're obviously all about the concept if you're playing early access. But then playing the game itself enhances it and brings that out in people. So I absolutely believe that. I wouldn't have been playing this long, if I didn't. I've played a lot of games over the years. I don't play too many games this long, and I don't play any other competitive multiplayer games. I hate competitive multiplayer games, and yet here I am. So what does that say?
Yeah. let's go into slightly more quick-fire questions for Q&A.
Oh, yeah.
I'll try and make sure that we don't get onto tangents, and especially stop myself.
Do whatever you want.
Zero2KA asks one last time, what kind of preparations do you do for your matches?
I don't know how much I want to answer that. I'm still in the middle of doing some of it.
You can answer as much as you want, or none at all.
I will say that I do prep, and this is what I'm about to say is not. I'm not putting on airs. This is not false modesty. Most of the people in the top couple of divisions are much more talented than I am at this game, and one of the only potential equalizers I have is to really work hard. I decided that the moment I decided to enter SCL, when I said earlier, I don't do things halfway. You can't play this game like that. I can't play this game like that. I need to go all out.
Yeah.
That means trying really hard and thinking a lot about my opponents, and that self-reflection thing. For the first time recently, I went back and played all my own replays to see what someone else might think if they played them, and it's a really creepy, weird feeling. Let me tell you.
It is. Yeah.
But you need to do that. So I don't want to be too specific, but I will say that I definitely prepare. I think I have to prepare to even have a chance up here. And I think what's going to be really interesting, some of these guys up here are so talented that I think they probably prepare only a little bit and they still can beat me, which is horrifying. And SpyParty, I think, is definitely going to get to the point where at the top, everyone is really talented and really prepared, and it's going to be a sight to see.
Yeah, it will be. PoNoob asks, of any other player in SpyParty, who do you consider the closest to your playstyle?
Oh my goodness, that is a heck of a question. Well, okay, so there's closest in terms of type, and there's closest in terms of degree.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm close to KCM in terms of degree, but I try to emulate certain things about him. I actually said this on stream the other day with when I was playing Dowsy, I think it was. A couple years ago, I forget what it was, but he said something on one of his streams about he hasn't done something in a while, so he should do it, so he avoids falling into a pattern. And it just sort of struck me, and I thought, wow, that's just so fluid, That's so adaptable. I like that. That's what I want to be. I'm not sure I've really succeeded at that very much, but that's sort of thing where if you study my games, you'll come away with some tendencies, but I don't think you'll come away with anything really strong. He always does this or he never does this. And I've worked really hard to try to make that the case. So in terms of goals, I'm trying to be like that. I'm trying to be like KCM. I don't think I'm at that level by any stretch of the imagination. But in terms of what I'm trying to do, I think it's like that. I think it's a kind of a fluidity, a style, which is specifically the lack of a style. But I like the way Noob puts it. He describes it as pragmatic. It is very pragmatic. I think I give myself a decent chance to be in almost every match, but I don't do anything overwhelming or anything particularly crazy or surprising most of the time. I don't usually do 6 strats or creative plays, or I'm not bringing out the tech or anything like that. I'm just trying to play a really solid game and mix it up, and put myself in a position to take advantage when I get lucky. We talk on the cast a lot about opportunism, and we'll say, such and such, the ST came right up to them, right? Or the DA entered right when they needed them to, or left right after, or the sniper's top suspect was the green swapper, and we'll say that was lucky, but if you go back and listen, you'll see that we almost always point out that it's only sort of luck, because the best players put themselves in a position where a little bit of luck will win them the game, and they pounce on it. They take opportunities as they come. So I think that's what I try to do. I just try to put myself in every game, and then if I get a little lucky, maybe I'll actually win one. So that's the goal.
All right. Kletos asks, what if R7 comes back? Now, very quickly, explain who R7 is, just very briefly.
R7
where would you put him in the leagues?
Yeah, so R7 is R7 Stewart. Again, I think he's a real old timer, 5+ years, maybe 6+ years. He was there when I came in. So what he's most known for, 2 things, actually. He hits a ridiculous number of action tests. And I know some players are a little better or worse at it, but almost all top players fall somewhere between 45 and 65%, I would say. Like, almost all of them. Top players a little over 60, but almost nobody gets consistently over that or consistently under that, except at totally different levels. R7, I think, probably averaged 70 to 75%. I think he was just
insane. Yeah.
His Twitch was ridiculous.
I think KCM used to get him because he just assumed green tests happened.
Yes, he would assume.
Yeah.
Yes, so we talk about that sometimes about how maybe you can assume green or white for certain players, or you can assume white more, white BBs or whatever, and you make certain decisions based on that. He was probably the only player where it started to make statistical sense to assume green, unless there was a strategic reason for him not to hit it, right?
Yeah.
So he's known for that. The other thing he was known for was just understanding AI pathing at a level that, at least at the time, nobody else did, particularly on maps like Balcony. If you play Balcony for a minute, he'd just low light everyone but you and shoot you. I mean, I didn't get to see it myself very often, but I heard a lot of stories about it, and they made it sound terrifying. I don't know how he would be today. I think at this point enough in the game has changed, and there are a few more pathing experts. I think he'd need to get back into the swing of things, but I think that raw talent he has is as high as maybe anyone else who's played the game. So I'm kind of glad he's not playing right now, because otherwise I'd probably have to play him.
Let's put a pin in this and say if he joined the league and he went through the placement matches, where would he end up?
Gold or higher, but it would really depend on how much he prepared. I think the game is at the point now, though, where if you haven't played it for a while, there's been just enough changes that your old knowledge maybe can't get you by quite as much as it did. It's really a testament to the type of skill this game measures, that players who maybe haven't played for a couple of years, they come in, they learn about a mission or two, and they get good again pretty darn quick. It's not like, I don't know enough about League of Legends to say if this is like accurate or something, but and some of these online games that people play competitively, there are just so many little balance tweaks, month over month, update over update, where if you don't keep up with it, you're going to get burned right away.
Yeah.
The SpyParty, the core of the game is still there, so someone like R7 would still be good immediately.
Yes.
But if you're away for a little while, there are a couple larger changes to the meta that you'd probably need to be aware of and get used to. So I think there'd be an adjustment. Yeah, there'd be an adjustment period for him, but I think if he really made a concerted effort, he'd be somewhere near the top.
Perfect.
I hope he comes back, because I want to cast more players like him with that preternatural talent. I really do.
Yeah, that'd be fun. Quick Lime asks, make an all-star lineup card out of SpyParty players.
Oh God.
Now I'll give you 2 minutes.
Yeah, 2 minutes. I'll try not to go on too long. It's going to be like an Oscar acceptance speech where I want to make sure I mention everyone, because I don't want to shortchange anyone. Obviously, everyone else in Diamond. I mean, clearly, but most of the players in Platinum too. I guess it's more, who would I put up against potentially anyone else on a given day? Yeah. And there are fewer names for that. So I'll actually get to give you a real answer. I'm not going to give you the nice, friendly, everybody answer.
Let's go.
Even though everyone's great, but there are players that I can't imagine being bad at this game even years from now.
Yeah.
I think Bacon is a threat every single day. I think KCM's a threat every single day, and I think Kaylee is just so disciplined every single day.
Oh, yeah. I think Kaylee has to be up there.
Yeah. I think it's those three, and I don't mean any disrespect to anyone else or myself or whatever.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll feel differently when I've played Bloom and Piers more, but I think right now they are just doing things at a level that most of the rest of us aren't, and that's who I feel.
The question, I didn't say it initially because I didn't understand, but it says what's DH? But I assume that's a baseball thing.
It is a baseball thing, yeah. I gotta say, it's funny. I might be the only baseball fan in this entire beta, it feels like sometimes. There's just not a lot of overlap between IT professionals, SpyParty players, and baseball or sports fans in general. Yeah. No offense, not the sportiest bunch in the world.
Quicklime might be one. What is DH?
It's designated hitter. So there's such a high degree of specialization in baseball that if you are a good pitcher, you really don't have time to be a good hitter, too. They don't pull double duty like us spies and snipers, man. They specialize.
They only come out for batting, and like someone else subs in for them when they're fielding, or like
right.
Nonsense like that.
Right. So there's 9 players on a field. One of them's the pitcher. In the National League, the pitcher bats, and they are awful now. They used to be kind of okay, but there's higher and higher specialization as the sport goes on, right? Yeah. So now they're really terrible for the most part.
Yeah, because they like generalists just can't get there anymore, right?
Yeah, they play one every 5 games, and they just don't have time. They have to focus all their efforts on pitching. Yeah. So in the American League, I think it was back in the 70s, they decided this is awful. We're going to have a guy whose job it is to just hit for the pitcher. He won't field, and the pitcher won't hit, and that's fine. But it's only in the American League. In the National League, they don't have it. So it's the designated hitter. Yeah. And it's basically the equivalent of these tag team tournaments where you play one role exclusively.
Yeah.
I like the back and forth in this case, but yeah, it's just specialization, really.
All right. So, who would be to finish off this question? Who would be a designated hitter for SpyParty?
Someone who specializes in one role, basically.
I'd guess so. Yeah.
I mean, Okay, so I think you have to say it's Kaylee as sniper. I think that's
Yeah,
the
Kaylee
most.
sniper.
Yeah,
Kaylee can. I like to rag on Kaylee Spy because he got like a 24% win rate last season.
yeah.
Like, it can do very special things that other spies usually don't try to do.
He's a good spy. There's no question about it. He's a good spy. He's a
Yeah.
great. He has great results because he's a good spy and a great sniper. And that's a pretty good combination. If he were a below average spy and a great sniper, he'd just be okay. He'd just be pretty good, and he'd be in the mix, but he probably wouldn't be winning as often as he does. But he's overwhelming in that one role. If you have to pick best person in either role, it's that. Close second, KCM as spy. And I think what could be really interesting is if we add another mission or two, and we make it, a little harder to camp, then to see KCM spy against Kaylee sniper, maybe on the biggest stage. I'm looking forward to it. But right now, just based on results, you got to say Kaylee is the sniper. He's the designated hitter of SpyParty? Yeah.
Yeah, he is. God, he's such a good sniper. It's almost depressing how good he is at sniper.
Well, look,
Mostly because of his style. Like, if he was much more of a hybrid, which he does do on balcony because he's forced to do it.
You have to, yeah.
Yeah, then I'd be a lot more okay with it because then like that's like him like. Then he doesn't like then embody like just camping cartels.
Right. Well, look, he's the first person to say that his style is boring. He admits it, and that's true. But one thing to remember is this game is not done. It's in early access. It's sort of our job still to break it.
Yeah.
Now, in an obvious sense, everybody understands that.
Break it? Is that
Yeah.
what you're
Well,
saying?
not quite. I'm going to build up to this a little bit. We understand that in terms of bugs. We all understand that we're supposed to literally break the game so we can fix bugs. But we're also supposed to sort of break the meta a little bit. We're supposed to, if something is exploitable at a high level, we're supposed to find that out. So if camping is very strong at a high level right now, Checker needs to know that. And maybe he'll say, you know what, that's okay. I'm okay making a game where this style, this relatively straightforward, style that doesn't involve a whole lot of decision-making or creativity, it's just monitoring things robotically. If he wants that to be viable at a high level, cool. I trust his judgment there. If he says, I want it to be a little less viable, or I don't want it to be viable at all, he needs to know first, what that is. He needs to know what his choices are. So now he can see, he can see that right now with the current setup, that getting really good at camping and learning it and practicing it for years, you can be the best sniper in the game doing that right now if you have some natural talent and you work really hard at it. So now Checker can make a more informed decision about any possible new missions or game modes or anything like that. So I absolutely believe that the best version of SpyParty is one where Kaylee's current style is not as dominant. But I also believe that we get the best version of SpyParty by him doing that, as long as he can, as well as he can, so that we can find those those inflection points, and Checker can make decisions with more information about them. So I think he's doing a lot for the game, and not just as an ambassador, as a player, as a nice guy, but specifically by trying to exploit the living daylights out of camping as much as he can. I think it's a great thing.
Yeah.
Okay. It might not be exciting in the moment, but it makes great storylines too, doesn't it?
You cast a lot of Kaylee's sniper games.
Yes.
How do you feel about casting those?
It's not as interesting to cast. I have no trouble saying that whatsoever. I mean, you get to be impressed by some really good shots sometimes, but you don't really get to talk a whole lot about the strategy behind it because there isn't that much. We end up talking almost exclusively about the spy and how they're going to fight it. But that's interesting in its own right, too. So the game still ends up being interesting. The sniping itself might not be, but the game can still be, because how does a really good spy respond to such an overwhelming sniper like that? How do you try to crack that? Mm-hmm. And, for all the talk about it, we do see it, the dam breaks occasionally. In the finals last year, KCM got multiple spy wins. We thought that was going to be the question. We thought if you told us before that match KCM was going to win, 2 or 3 spy games, we would have thought, oh my God. Yeah, we might think, well, okay, we've got a new champion. He just happened to drop a couple sniper games too. Yeah. But that's what I want to see. I want to see people going up against that giant wall and trying to find a way to knock it down. I think that's exciting.
I'm sorry to rag on Kaylee again, but it's like when
you can interview him too. I'm sure he'll have things to say.
Kaylee before, but when. My favorite times when he's a sniper is like when we start seeing him as a human, and we start seeing him cracking concentrations and people actually getting cartels against him. Those are the games I love, especially as a caster.
Well, that just sounds like Schadenfreude. I can't help you with that. But But no, but you're right. You're right. It is interesting. It is interesting because when someone gets really good at something, it's like, well, how do you lose at that point? How they lose is also interesting. Here's another sports reference that no one in chat will get. But the New England Patriots a number of years ago, they went 16-0 in the regular season, and they won their first 2 playoff games, and they went into the Super Bowl 18-0 with a chance to go undefeated. Only one team in history has gone undefeated. It was a Miami Dolphins team from the 1970s. I think it was 72. And back then the schedule was shorter. They went 14-0. So this was it. Immortality was on the line. And a pop culture writer who also writes about sports sometimes, named Chuck Klosterman, wrote an article between the conference championships and the Super Bowl where he actually said they would be a much more interesting team historically if they lost the Super Bowl. They finished 18-1, right? Because by all accounts,
they should win. Yeah.
Well, and already it doesn't actually matter if they lose. They clearly were the best team that year, and they might have been the best team ever. But if you lose that last game, what's it worth, right? So the way great people fail is interesting, partially because usually you become great by failing in the first place over and over again. But then how you fail after you're great is interesting. Failure is interesting. Failure is interesting because it's a lesson. When I said earlier the why is more important than the win, that's kind of the same idea. Why we fail is what's the most important and interesting thing about this. So yeah, it might seem boring in the moment, but it's a great storyline because it's someday someone else is going to win, and then you'll look back on it and think, wow, what a great storyline that this guy won 3 in a row, and then someone finally took him down with this crazy whatever, right? Like it's good. It is actually good for the game. I promise it is.
Last couple Q&A questions. Do you know much about Challenger?
Just a bit. There are so many people in Challenger that I really, can't learn about them all. I'm doing my best. There are a few early standouts. Is that what they're asking about? Probably early standouts.
It's actually probably asking a question that you might not be able to answer. But who are the key players in Challenger that no one knows about?
Oh, well, by definition, I couldn't answer that because then I would know about them and they would cease to exist and qualify for the question.
No one knows that they're good and should be feared.
Yeah, that's still pretty tough. So most of the people's top picks for Challenger are going to be pretty obvious. I'll give you one name that I think is a little under the radar right now. It's David W. I think David W. is one of the better players there. I know everyone's talking about Dowsey, and they should be. He's great, and he could absolutely win. And he's streaming a lot and casting a lot, and God bless him for it. I'm really enjoying what he's doing over there. So he's the known quantity. I think the word is out now that he's one of the favorites in Challenger. I think David W. is sneaky, though. I actually was spectating some of his games shortly after the Steam launch. I remember being really impressed, even after I think it was 500 or 600 games, and he's played a lot more since. So that's the only one I would say right now who may be flying under the radar just a little bit, but still has a chance to win it.
Sure. All right, last question from Quicklime. If you finish at the bottom of Platinum, you big F, hypothetical.
Moderate if, but okay, fair enough.
And then you win the match against whoever's second to last, right?
Yeah.
And you have to play a hazard match. Who do you fear going against in Platinum?
Yeah. Well, I mean, obviously Piers looks like the best player on paper.
Yes.
Now, on paper is different than in game, as we've learned. It's a stressful game, and Piers is an excitable guy. So I don't know. I guess I've only played him a couple times, like I mentioned. I lost to him the first time. I tied him the second, and I felt pretty unprepared for the first match. Certainly caught me very off guard. And the second one, I felt a lot better. I haven't really played him since, though. So I guess it has to be Piers just based on reputation alone.
Yep.
Certainly. But part of me would relish it. I want to see what the fuss is about a little bit, and I want to be able to go into that match because with the hazard match, it's longer. Yeah. Preparation matters more, and I would prepare, and think a lot about it.
That would be a super interesting match because for that match to happen, that would mean that Piers would have to have finished first or second, and then lost the rank up game.
That's a really good point. So right. So on paper, you'd think, oh my God, so scary. But by definition, this is a situation that only happens if he's lost the finals there. And then it's like, well, maybe
we've seen blood, right? Blood's in the
water. Well, right, yeah, and that's a big question for everyone. Piers was clearly underpromoted in those early days, and so he's just been kind of romping. Yeah. And there's a temptation when someone does that to just say, oh my God, they're unstoppable. And it's like, well, he's really good. We know that, but we don't really know how good yet, and we're not going to find out until, he keeps winning at this level and beyond. It's easy to imagine anything that's happening, just like Kaylee winning, and imagining it going on forever. Nothing changes until it does. One day it just changes. One day it's just different. It's gonna happen, right? Piers will lose a match someday. Kaylee will lose a final someday. It'll happen. They're both great players, but it'll happen. It happens to the best of us.
Hopefully.
So it's very easy to take that and extrapolate it. And to go back to sports, sometimes you get these top prospects and they'll be in AA or AAA, below the major leagues, and they'll just be tearing it up. People go, oh my God, I can't wait. It's the next Babe Ruth, whatever. And then they get to the majors and, oh my God, the majors are right. And maybe they're still really, really good, but it turns out it's really hard. And you don't really know what you got until you're up against the best.
Yeah. All right. I think that's it. That's it for the
Cool.
questions. Anything that you want to talk about very quickly in these last 2-3 minutes, or something you want to plug, or anything like that?
I'll talk. Thank you. Well, I will say as a blanket statement, if I ever cast your games and I criticize a decision of yours, I'm sorry. It's not personal. It's my job to do that, and I'm not saying I would do anything different in your position because I know how hard it is in the moment. It's our job to pick it apart, and I want to thank everyone who we've ever casted for being cool about it, for understanding that that's our job and not taking it personally, because it's a very intimate game and criticism can be difficult in any endeavor. But this is one of the ways we become more like a real esport and become a better game, is to critique each other and open ourselves up to that. And so thank you, first of all, everyone, for letting us do that, for letting us pick you apart and making the game better by being critiqued like that. The only other thing I want to say is you really got to watch this year. The cast is as good as it's ever been. It's going to get better. We are going all out this year. I'm really excited to do it. It's actually one of the things that's helping me relax about Diamond, because I feel like even if I fall flat on my face the rest of the year, the cast is going to be so good and so fun, and I'm going to have such a great time, and we're going to be so proud of it. You really want to watch this year, and you want to spread the word about this game. You really do.
I didn't even think about the circumstance of you actually getting to the finals of Diamond, and that means that I have to find a different caster for the finals.
I mean, I wouldn't. That actually makes me feel better too. Is that if probably when, but if I don't make the finals, at least I'll get to cast again.
Yeah, you're still gonna be in it.
I'll get to wear a different tie. I got a couple ties I haven't tried out yet. But if I obviously I'd like to make it, but it's win-win as far as I'm concerned. Yeah, absolutely. So other than that, the only thing I want to plug is SpyPartyFans.com. It is being remade right now. I'm going to add a lot of new stuff for SCL. There's a little hints of it here and there. I'm writing weekly wrap-ups. There's going to be live streams there, recent VODs, and we're playing around with some interesting statistical analysis that I think is going to get better and better as we get more replays.
Yes. The numbers.
I just want to tease that a little bit. I'm doing some work on it right now, and it's really fun and really exciting. Mm-hmm. And we're going to revamp our homepage for all the new SCL content. So please visit SpyPartyFans.com and follow us on Twitter, SpyPartyFans.
All right. Thank you for the first interview of SpyParty Competitive League Season 4. Hopefully everyone in chat actually liked this. Thank you again, WarningTrack, for being my guinea pig.
I appreciate it. Yeah, thank you for having me. Thank you for asking such great questions. And thanks for listening to me talk, everybody. That's pretty much all I do with this game is talk and hope people listen. And I'm really flattered that you ever do.
I love listening to people talk about things that they're passionate about, even if I have no idea what they're talking about. Thankfully, in this case, I do know what you're talking about, and it just makes it that much better. Passionate.
Couldn't have said it better myself, dude. Yeah, when people are passionate, you care too.
It's compelling no matter what they're saying.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Do you have a sign off?
Do I have a sign off?
I think I should just delegate the sign off to the guest and just see how it goes.
Yes, yeah, fair enough. And unfortunately, on the fade is the same. I still don't think that's fair, by the way. I know literally the sign off Tobo used to use when we did our little friendship casts. At the same time, we would both literally just say signing off and go like this. So close enough. Signing off. Right. Yeah, sure. Yeah, can we time it, or is it going to be some latency? Is it because we used to have latency issues, and he would say it, and I would say it 2 seconds later, and it was always a mess.
We need a countdown. Okay.
Okay.
All right,
yeah.
3, 2, 1.
Signing off.
That's not great, but okay.
No, it never is. It never works.